Okay, we're live and we're recording.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is Monday, June 14th, 2021. This is the regular weekly public business meeting for the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. I am Vice Chair Claire Hall presiding in absence of Chair Doug Hunt, who is excused today. Commissioner Katie Jacobson is also online, so the two of us do constitute a quorum. And then next up, we have recognition proclamation. This is resolution number 21-14-6A, proclaiming June as LGBTQ Pride Month. And I understand, let's see, we have Beck Fox on the line from the Bravery Center, and I believe a student will be joining in hopefully within a minute or so, but right now, per usual format, before the presentation, I'm going to request Commissioner Jacobson to read that proclamation if you're prepared.
I'd be happy to. Christy, can you pull that up for me? Okay. In the matter of proclaiming June as LGBTQ Pride Month in Lincoln County, Oregon, whereas Lincoln County supports the right of every citizen to be free of discrimination and, hang on, I'm older eyes here, and whereas this nation was founded on the principle of equal rights for all people, but that fulfillment of that promise has been long in coming for some Americans, and whereas in the movement towards equal rights for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ people, a historic turning point occurred on June 28, 1969 in New York City with the onset of the Stonewall riots. During these riots, LGBTQ citizens rose up and fought against discriminatory laws and have since been declared unconstitutional. And whereas June is celebrated as LGBTQ Pride Month nationwide, and whereas Lincoln County, Oregon has a diverse LGBTQ community that includes many people who have made significant contributions to the life of our communities, and whereas everyone should be able to live without fear of prejudice, discrimination, violence, and hatred based on race, religion, gender, identity, or sexual orientation. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Lincoln County, Oregon, on behalf of citizens, does hereby proclaim June 21 as Pride Month in Lincoln County, and if you could scroll up. Thank you. And encourages all residents to respect and honor our diverse community and celebrate and build a culture of inclusiveness and acceptance.
And thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. And right now, I'd like to hand off to Beck Fox with the Bravery Center. And Beck has a few words to offer, and then we'll introduce a second speaker on the subject of this proclamation. Beck?
Thank you, Claire. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beck Fox. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the director of Olala Center's Bravery Program for LGBTQ+ youth here in Lincoln County. I moved here after I graduated in 2016 and was immediately met with a giant culture shock. For the first time, my partner and I made the conscious decision to stop holding hands in public, and we have been together for almost 17 years. I have seen members of my community here exhibit so much resiliency and courage through events of discrimination, harassment, and violence at every level, both nationally and right here at home in Lincoln County. It happens every single day, but we should not have to be courageous, and we should not have to be resilient. We should not have to put on armor, metaphorically speaking, every single day just to walk out of our door. I started the Bravery Program to build safe space, access to resources, and connection for LGBTQ+ youth. Bravery would not be what it is without the leadership of young people like Des, who is here with me today, representing Bravery's youth leadership team. We are grateful for your time today and hope that this is a step towards meaningful action in protecting our LGBTQ+ community. I want to give Des the floor because today it is his voice, the voice of a real young person that is here in your community that needs to be heard. And with that, it's all yours, Des.
Hi, my name is Des Swisher. I am a recent graduate of Taft High here in Lincoln City, and I was the president of our Gender Sexuality Alliance, the GSA, for all 4 years that I was in high school. And during these 4 years, I had many students come in of all different types, of all different backgrounds. But one thing that was always in common with every single one of them was they had at least one person who was present in their life that was not supportive, that did not use the right pronouns, that took down our flyers. We have multiple occasions where all of our advertisements have to go inside of classrooms because otherwise any handmade flyers that we make will be torn down and torn apart. I have found like our posters on the ground in pieces. So by passing this proclaiming June as Pride Month is not only benefiting, you know, the people like Beck and I who get the opportunities to come and speak with you, but it is also benefiting the students who may not have found their voices yet, or even, you know, adults of all ages who don't have the voice or have the resource to say, I am here and I need to be seen. So that is why I think that this is just such an important thing for Lincoln County to do for people all over.
Thank you very much, Des, and thank you, Beck. And Commissioner Jacobson, do you have any questions or comments for our presenters?
Yeah, I do. Well, first off, thank you both of you for being here. And it was actually youth from the Bravery Center that brought this to our attention and kind of proposed doing this. So thank you not just to you, Des, but all of your, you know, colleagues, so to speak, that helped bring this up. And also congratulations on your recent graduation. I can't wait to see what great things are in store for you. I guess a couple of things, maybe just an opportunity for a little plug here. Is there's probably several people watching this that maybe aren't familiar with what the Bravery Center is exactly. And Beck, you touched briefly on that, but you know, if we had someone listening to this that maybe knew a youth, I don't think a lot of youth actually watch these. So if we had someone watching who knew a youth and thought, oh, I think, you know, they might use some support. How does someone find you? What kind of services are available? I think it would be helpful for people to kind of know how they reach you and what kind of things you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bravery Center is a program out of the Olala Center, which is based in Toledo, but we have stuff all over the county that we're doing. Bravery's physical location is located at the Lincoln City Cultural Center. And because of the pandemic, as many other things have been affected, we are not currently open, but we're hoping for the fall. In terms of programs and services, we offer LGBTQ plus affirming mental health services, which is like individual therapy, family therapy, in a very culturally specific way, connection to resources both locally here in our community and throughout our region. We have a safe online hangout space for youth that is staff monitored, where youth can connect together and do teenage stuff, just like share pet pictures and memes like teenagers do, and, you know, talk about pop culture and whatever else, and other LGBTQ topics and events. We do a lot of workshops and trainings, both for as educational institutions, healthcare providers, so other social service agencies, as well as putting out kind of like general 101 workshops for parents who may have just had a kid that's come out recently and have a million questions and they don't know where to go because there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet that you're not sure what's good information. So offering workshops that are approachable and a safe space to come in and ask questions and learn about things like, my kid uses different pronouns, what do I do? And learn more about resources that are available. For people that are interested in getting connected with Bravery, probably the best way to do that is by visiting the Olala Center website, which is olalacenter.org, and there under the programs tab is a drop-down menu. Bravery Center should be right at the top. We also have a Facebook page, and that is a great place to keep in touch with all the upcoming events and things like that.
Thanks. And if there was, adults that wanted to get involved, not so much for services, but wanted to help support that effort, how do they plug in, or what are some things that you need that, the community can help you with?
Yeah, absolutely. So always on the lookout for volunteers, especially as things open up to being back in person and it becomes much more difficult to do things with a small team. Volunteers will be very, very much needed, and that could be helping out at the drop-in center. If people enjoy cooking, we'll be serving meals every day. But there are lots of ways to get engaged. We'd like to develop a really rich and robust mentorship program, as well as helping table at events, put events together, putting together Pride. We'd love to see events happen big movie nights and queer prom and different things like that. So there's lots of volunteer opportunities that will be popping up all over the place once COVID kind of settles down a bit. And also just looking for people that would like to help get the word out, share it on social media, tell everybody word of mouth is a really, really powerful tool. So those are probably the best ways to help out.
Thanks, Beck. And then one last question for you, Des. So I'm a mom. I have 4 kids, and of course, all of my kids are completely perfect and never make any mistakes whatsoever. Sarcasm there, but I know from being a parent and also being a kid at some point in my life, that other kids can be cruel, can be bullies, can be difficult, but also kids can also be great allies. And good friends. So I guess my question to you is, what can other youth do that maybe don't identify as LGBTQ, but what can they do to be allies?
Honestly, one of the greatest things you can do is to amplify LGBTQ voices, because our experience is so unique that a lot of the times allies don't always know what to say. But beyond that, because there are plenty of other things you can do, my greatest thing is always encouraging people to educate yourself. The internet is you can access the internet for free from our local libraries. Just go research, learn some things, understand how things work, why things work, and just keep an open mind. If someone corrects you about something, take it in stride. Say, oh, thank you for correcting me. I apologize, and move on. And that should be it. The greatest thing you can do to be an ally is just be kind, be open-minded, be educated. Those are the top 3 things that I would always recommend.
Great, thank you.
So, Beck and Des, I really want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank you both for being here to share with us about the Bravery Center and about the importance of this resolution. Before we take a formal vote, I'd just like to note that certainly this resolution stands in and of itself, but also is continuing something our board has been, I think, a series of resolutions and statements that go back at least to the fall of 2019, when we did a statement valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion. In the spring of 2020, we issued a very strong anti-racism statement, not only signed by the 3 commissioners, but by the other countywide elected officials, as well as by all of our appointed department heads. Earlier this year, we did a letter of support for a bill that would declare racism as a public health crisis statewide. And most recently, before this proposed resolution, we adopted one condemning hate groups, hate crime, hate speech. That was specifically prompted by the unfortunate rise in violence against Asian Americans, but that it's a much deeper problem. So I am very pleased to see this resolution joining these others in a very public statement about community values of inclusivity for every person in Lincoln County. If there isn't anything else, Commissioner Jacobson, I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
Excuse me, I I just started coughing when you said that.
Uh-oh.
I will make a motion to adopt the resolution as read.
And I will happily second that motion. All in favor of adopting the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it stands approved. And again, Beck and Des, you're certainly welcome to stay for more of the meeting, but if you've got other things to do on this nice sunny Monday afternoon, certainly we'll understand if you step away. So the next item on our agenda is the adoption of our consent calendar. And these items are routine in nature, such as appointments to our various boards, committees, and commissions, signing off on OLCC permits for businesses, just the day-to-day business of the county. And Commissioner Jacobson, if you don't have any items you'd like to highlight or remove from the consent calendar, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I will make a motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, it stands approved. We do not have a public hearing scheduled today, so we move on to our one decision action item, authorization to issue a notice of intent to award Dangermond, is it Kane or Keen?
Keen. Yeah, it's Keen.
Dangermond Keen Architect LLC for the Animal Shelter RFP and for county staff to finalize negotiations for a contract. Assistant County Counsel Jerry Herbage is here to make this presentation, so I'll turn the floor over to him.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioners. I am Jerry Herbage, and let's start with the project itself. This Board of Commissioners has authorized and backed a very important project, and that project is getting a new animal shelter, county animal shelter, to replace the temporary facilities that we have. And certainly there's a great need for it. And for those who may be listening and who don't know much about this, the background is something like this. So right now, the animal shelter's in temporary quarters, but the board has approved a project in the amount of approximately $2.5 million, not including the amount for a lease and some other things, but within the range of $2.5 million. The location would be at the Newport Airport in an area of about 5 acres that has been looked at and actually surveyed through our surveyor department. This project for an animal shelter is proposed to be in 2 phases. And phase 1 would be creating a conceptual design for the animal shelter, including the facilities and services and so on, and possible future expansion. And the good news is it would include extensive stakeholder and community input within the limitations of available funding. And so this conceptual design and planning would be used to apply for a conditional use. So in land use, a conditional use permit would be required with the city of Newport for the location of the facilities. And so the first part of the project is to have this conceptual design, to have an application, to go through the planning process, and to receive an approval. The second phase is like this. If the conditional use process is successful and other conditions precedent are resolved, including the execution of the lease and so on, then we go to phase 2, which would include detailed plans, designs, construction administration, the bidding and all of that, which would go with it. And then there's future phases, ancillary facilities could be placed there. And so that is the overview of the project itself. So the cornerstone for this project And what we really need to do to get really going is to secure architectural planning and engineering services. So with the board's blessing, the staff issued a request for proposals for this project to obtain architectural planning and engineering services. And this was meant to be that services would be it would be comprehensive. So they would include the architecture, of course, landscape architecture, planning and engineering services, including civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, low voltage, so on. So a complete package is what we're looking for. And under the law, staff put together a qualifications-based solicitation, which is required, with the idea that contracting and pricing would be negotiated later. So in this process, I was designated the project manager, and separately there was a selection committee to actually review these proposals coming in. And they consisted of some key county and community representatives. I might mention briefly, they included our County Council, Wayne Belmont, our sheriff, Curtis Landers, the animal shelter director, Laura Ireland, Director of Public Works, Roy Kenyon, County Engineer, Steve Hodge, Facilities Manager, Jack Whaley. But also, I think Wayne had a good idea. He wanted a little more community involvement. So he asked, and Lance Vanderbeck, who's the Newport Airport Director, agreed also to be on the selection committee. So we issued this RFP, and we issued it at the end of March. And at the end of April, we received 3 proposals, and all of the proposals came from firms that had strong aspects, strong points to them. We took those proposals, gave them to the selection committee, and they met and evaluated the proposals. The top 2 proposers were interviewed, and that was done on May 26th. And we spent a good part of the afternoon doing that. It went real well. We had a number of questions that were standard for both of the proposers. The selection committee took in consideration the original proposals as well as the interviews, and they unanimously recommended Dangermond Keene Architects LLC, sometimes called or abbreviated as DKA. And as I told you before, this was all meant to be like a teamwork thing, where that someone submitted a proposal, they needed to have on board the engineers and the landscape architects and so on. What was interesting about Dangermond Keene Architects is they associated an architectural firm from Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia, DWG, and that particular firm specializes in animal shelters. So within the materials, I think that they had discussed at least, 11 animal shelters that they have been involved in the work there. And that seemed to separate them somewhat from the others. Although I was project manager, I was not the evaluator, but I can tell you that it was unanimous that our selection committee recommended Dangermond Keene. And in their submittal, I would say that there was a lot of attention to the kinds of things that you would want to know about shelters. So they talked a lot in their proposal about disease control, odor, sound control, and even cost control and sustainability. So as a matter of legal process, when we have a project like this, there comes a time when we need to have the board authorize a notice of intent to award. And the legal process is that anyone else who participated has 7 days to protest the award. And then if that isn't protested, then we move on to getting a contract in place. And so I would ask the board to consider moving to authorize Lincoln County to issue a notice of intent to award to DKA LLC for the architectural planning engineering services for the Lincoln County Animal Shelter, and for the county staff to finalize negotiations for a contract. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I do appreciate this opportunity to go over the project with you.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry, and thank you for that excellent overview. I do have one observation to make and a question. Yeah, I think you did a great job. We should let everybody know that the commissioners were provided with a packet of information, including the scoring sheet for the process and the proposals from the top two contenders. And as I was reviewing that very thorough proposal, just one aspect that you haven't mentioned that I thought of former Commissioner Thompson, anytime we were talking about a building project in Lincoln County, he always raised the question, well, what about the this outfit's experience with building for a coastal environment? And I thought he would be smiling if he was reviewing that document and saw a very long list of coastal projects that Danger Bond Keene has been involved in. My question is, if, assuming we adopt this proposed motion today and things go forward and we're able to get the contract finalized with Danger Bond Keene, do they have any kind of even rough time frame for the first phase, how long it might take from launch to completion?
So thank you for the question. There's not a specific time frame, although the firm indicated that they would, be able to work on this, to prioritize it. What makes this different from many of the proposals or many of the projects that DKA works on is that we have 2 phases, right? We need to get the matter with the conceptual drawings before the city of Newport for approval. And but we don't have a strict timeline, but DKA notified us that they would expedite matters, that they would engage in the stakeholder process, and so that's what I would say about it. There's no strict timeline.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Commissioner Jacobson, your observations and questions.
Yeah, just a couple of things. One is I just wanted to kind of reiterate to the public that, there is no building plans yet. I think people were getting maybe a little confused that, we were finalizing the plan and breaking ground, tomorrow or something. And that this is the plan to get us the plan, I guess, if that makes sense. And also I was just pleased to see in the materials I reviewed that this firm was going to be working with some engineers and architects that have experience in building animal shelters. I think that's just really important. It's not an office building that, you make into an animal shelter. We want an animal shelter. And so that was important to me. And so I'm glad that the committee felt the same way. And if you are ready, I am ready to make a motion.
Yeah, please go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay. I move to authorize Lincoln County to issue a notice of intent to award a contract to DKA LLC for architectural planning and engineering services for the Lincoln County Animal Shelter and for county staff to finalize negotiations for a contract.
I'll second the motion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously. Thanks, Jerry, and we'll look to you for updates as this process continues. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move on now to our discussion and information items, and the first is a drought declaration update. Commissioner Jacobson and Legal Counsel Wayne Belmont, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm bringing something up to read here. So several years ago when I joined the county as a commissioner, you guys had just, I think, declared your first drought. I think in 35 years, that was Wayne's very first drought. And you did get it done, but would have been, I think, helpful to have some guidance from stakeholders and state agencies on when to do that or how to do that, as there is not kind of this legal threshold of, something solid that we have to wait for to declare a drought. It is kind of up to us. So I kind of created an ad hoc drought group that meets through the summertime. We've already started meeting for this year. As mentioned in previous meetings, the situation is not looking good for this year for Lincoln County. Our rivers have been at historical lows, both Siletz and LC. We did get quite a bit of rain over the last couple of days, which people probably noticed, but that does not mean that it gets us out of the direction that we're headed. So I'm just going to provide a few updates of some information that was shared today at the drought group, and then talk about where we think we're headed. So kind of an ag summary of where we're at, or agricultural summary, is there was welcome periods of widespread soaking rains during the past weeks to provide sufficient agricultural soil moisture for crop growth. The relief may be short-lived as forecasts indicate a return to dry above average temperatures on Wednesday. Hay harvest is delayed for rain. Local forage yields are rebounding, but quality is uncertain as some grass species are going into summer dormancy early. Rains have swung river flows to moderately above average and increased turbidity in the mainstream Siletz yesterday. Local hydrology trends to favor flashy spikes in stream flow during rain events like this. Oregon Department of Forestry is planning to upgrade to industrial fire precaution level 1, fire season in effect, and Lincoln County on Wednesday, June 16th. The U.S. Drought Monitor has upgraded the entirety of Lincoln County to a D2, or severe drought, on an XD4 scale. Severe drought is estimated to extend up the coast of Clatsop County, and D3 extreme drought conditions are estimated in parts of nearby Lane County and Lynn County. 15 Oregon counties have requested drought declarations. 8 counties remain under governor-declared droughts, the nearest being Douglas County. The Siletz River is discharging at about 163% of average, and the LC at about 153% of average. And again, this is because of the rain we just had, but we do not expect that to hold. 10-day forecasts indicate periods of showers through Tuesday, followed by a high-pressure ridge building into our area from the south that will bring clear skies and above normal daytime temperatures. So again, while we did have periods of rain over the weekend, things are not looking good for us long-term going into the summer months. Today on our drought call, we actually added as many water purveyors, cities, and small water districts as we could to hopefully get them ready for what's going to look like a dry summer, and have them, make sure that all of those, water programs that they need to do to bring in water use if we have a drought are ready to go. Curtailment programs, rather. So kind of the charge of the group is to kind of put everybody and our citizens on notice this week that we expect that we will need to declare here real soon if the projected trends continue. So this is kind of a drought notice, I guess, was the consensus of the group, and likely if things go back to the way they were, After the rain we just had, we will likely be looking at needing to declare next week or possibly the week after. And I'll let Council Belmont weigh in if he has anything to add.
Thanks, Commissioner Jacobson. This is Wayne Belmont, Lincoln County Council. And I would just add that it was really useful for the group today to actually bring in the water purveyors because we need to coordinate our messages here. Actually, as we learned, a drought declaration in and of itself does not trigger either conservation or curtailment plans that these entities may have. There's a variety of things that they look at in order to move forward. But what we want to do is be consistent in our messaging and information that we provide to the public, because it is a part of that whole process. So one of the things we did learn is that actually in the last year or so, a number of the larger purveyors in Lincoln County, and including the Seal Rock Water District in the cities of Lincoln City, Newport, Yachats, and Walport, have formed what's called the Mid-Coast Water Conservation Consortium. And their desired purposes are to work on plans to increase water conservation awareness and actions, and also to increase resiliency during droughts and emergencies through alignment of mitigation and response activities, sharing conservation resources, and providing a consistent message to water consumers. So one of the things that I'm recommending we do when we do a declaration here is actually make a request of the Mid-Coast Conservation Consortium and other public and private water purveyors that they begin their conservation efforts, both in terms of education and specific actions they might take, including curtailment and implementation of curtailment plans with the advent of the declaration. We do that. And that was one of the things we discussed with this group today, and that was, I think, universally supported by the members of the group who were at our meeting today.
All right, anything else that either of you would like to add on this subject? If not, we will probably be looking for that resolution, as you said, Commissioner Jacobson, in the next week or two. Item, let's see, 8B is the first reading of our ordinance establishing a county administrator position, and Assistant County Counsel Kristen Ewell will have that. Kristen?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We had a discussion last week regarding this new ordinance that is setting forth a position of county administrator. So this is the first reading on this matter. This is regarding, before the Board of Commissioners for Lincoln County, Oregon, establishing the position of county administrator and declaring an emergency. Would anybody like a full reading of the ordinance?
I would not.
Title only is okay with me.
Okay. Hearing that, this is, again, just establishing the position of county administrator and declaring an emergency. And that's all I have.
So I guess my only question would be, just process-wise, after this first reading is complete, can we bring this back for second reading next week and adoption, or are there other steps?
Yep, so that was the plan, is next week to have a second reading, and then the following week we would actually adopt those.
Okay.
Actually, one quick correction. We'd actually bring it back in 2 weeks.
For a public,
We have to have bring it back 2 weeks. We need 14 days in between.
yes.
We'll bring it back 2 weeks. Sorry.
So the 28th.
And then,
28th.
Yeah.
all right. Thanks very much, Kristen. And now back to the agenda. I believe we will be moving to reports next. And I've been working off the screen, so I don't have a printed copy of the agenda, but I do believe our weekly update from Health and Human Services, Public Health, Florence Portal from HHS and Public Health, our COVID and vaccination update. Florence, good afternoon, and the floor is yours, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So 6 slides. We're trying to go to the point these days. So you can scroll down. Thank you. So just an overview of cases in both Lincoln County and the state of Oregon. As you can see, we keep on trending downwards, which is really, really good. We also haven't seen any hospitalizations, any new hospitalization in the past 3 to 4 weeks now, which is also very good. As you can see, the trend of cases in Lincoln County continues to follow the statewide trend when it comes to COVID. So, you know, I think this is a very good testament of the efficacy of vaccinations. You know, our case rate is going down, our vaccination rates are coming up, and we need to keep on going with offering vaccination to people so we can keep on maintaining that trend. Can you scroll down, please? All right, so the vaccination goal, we're getting closer. As of yesterday, you know, almost 68% of the 18 and older in Oregon had received at least one dose of any COVID vaccine, which is really, really amazing. So as of yesterday, there were a little bit over 76,000 people to vaccinate for the state to reach the 70% that has been set as the goal for most of the requirements pertaining to mask wearing and social distancing to be lifted in Oregon. So we're making our way towards that that percentage. You know, surely we're about there. Next slide, please. So the vaccinations by zip codes in Lincoln County. So first, I wanted to point out that you know, we are making progress. Our progress is very incremental at this time. We are moving between 0.8% to 1.2% a week in terms of increase of people being vaccinated. So as you can see, we are at 68.7% of people 12 and older having received a vaccine in Lincoln County, which is really, really amazing. I remember when we were setting up the plans, our big goal was, all right, when we reach 28,000, we would have done a really good job. So we're over this now, and we will keep on going. So as you can see, if you can just scroll down a tiny notch so we can see the table. Thank you. So what's been very interesting is that we are trying to look at areas in the county where we can focus our vaccination efforts a little bit more based on the percentage of vaccination amongst the population for that particular zip code. We're also looking at vaccination rates amongst various population groups. So, so as you can see, Eastern County is needing some attention a little bit, and so we have a few events that we're planning to bring the vaccines to these areas. You can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So a few things before I go to this slide. One is, as you know, we've focused our efforts towards mobile clinics and really like partnerships. So this week, actually today, this morning, we finished all of the vaccination efforts, all the second doses that we had implemented in partnership with the schools. So this morning was Newport Middle School. So this is done, and that was pretty successful. As we speak, there is a closed clinic that is being held at Georgia Pacific, and the focus is Georgia Pacific staff members and their family members. So we have a clinic there this afternoon and on Thursday afternoon. And on Saturday, we have a clinic at soccer games. So this is really exciting. Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson, for pointing us towards the soccer games, and we're hoping, to catch quite a lot of kiddos and their families and whoever is wanting to get vaccinated that day. So the last piece I wanted to mention is we have someone on the team who at least once a week, if not multiple times a week, makes the rounds of all of the pharmacies in the county and assess kind of like what vaccines they have available for that week at what pharmacy. And if people want to get the latest information, they just have to go onto the Lincoln County website, click on the vaccination clinic link, and then there is a vaccines and testings at pharmacy table that is updated at least once a week. So this is what we have for you this week.
Well, what can I say except short and sweet and great news. So Florence, thank you. Thanks to all your team and to all our community partners who are continuing to push those numbers higher. Commissioner Jacobson, any comments or questions for Florence?
Yeah, just some comments. I think back from the first or second slide you had, we're one of the only rural counties that's at 65% or higher. So we should be very proud of ourselves. The other thing I thought was kind of interesting, I think we saw this last week too, is, Neotsu, Logsdon, and Otter Rock have the highest vaccinated population. Granted, there's not that many people that live there, but what's sort of interesting to me is that those are all communities that are fairly remote and kind of removed and far away from services, but then so are Toledo, Tidewater, and Otis. And so it's just kind of interesting that Neotsu, for example, has a much higher rate than Otis does when they're kind of right next to each other, and both are pretty remote. So things to think about. So happy to see that we're getting out and getting more mobile, and I hope the soccer clinic goes well. I will be there, so I will come by and assist where I can. And I'm just glad to see that now that vaccine supply is not the barrier, which it was, months ago, that we're able to, like I said, be more nimble and remove, barriers like transportation and things like that for people. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. I pass this on.
Okay, Florence, if you don't have anything else, we will say thanks and see you next week and move
Sounds
along now. Oh, pardon me?
No, I was just saying that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Now we move along to Echo Mountain Fire update, and Legal Counsel Belmont, I believe, is listed first among the presenters, but I know as always this will be a team effort. So Wayne, you want to lead it off and we'll roll from there.
Thank you, Chair Hall. Wayne Belmont, County Council again. And I wanted to just highlight 3 different activities that are going on in the recovery efforts from the Echo Mountain Complex fire. The first is that the long-term recovery group, really is a community-based organization, usually made up of folks who are nonprofits, faith-based. There's some national organizations, but others who in the community itself can really play a vital role in the response to the fire and provide services that aren't necessarily either appropriate or able to be provided by government kinds of activities. So we have a long-term recovery group that's up and running for the Echo Mountain fire, a complex fire. I'm not directly involved with that group, so I'm not the best person to give an update. And if Commissioner Jacobson has more information on some of their activities, she can provide that. If not, Public Information Officer Casey Miller has been very involved with the group, and I'm going to ask him to do an update next week on some of the activities they're engaged in. But I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to that particular group and the efforts that they're making in North County. The second thing is that FEMA is re-engaging with the survivors and is doing a variety of activities, including some things that they did they're doing coming up the 18th through the 21st of June for those who qualify for federal direct disaster assistance. And really, this is a follow-through. It's a re-engagement process because a lot of people get started in the process. They may run into questions or concerns or issues in terms of their applications, and sometimes it's easy for people to kind of fall off, the service provision here if they don't get some additional assistance. So this is again, a common practice to re-engage survivors to make sure that they are moving forward with their applications for federal disaster assistance, and that will be happening at the North Lincoln Fire and Rescue District. And there's further information on that on the Lincoln County website. If you go to emergency services and to the North Lincoln Rebuilds page, there's more information related to that. The last thing that I'd like to talk about a little bit is that in anticipation, really this coincides with the drought discussion we had recently. One of the reasons that we do a drought declaration, and one of the concerns we have, is that we're coming back into wildfire season already. We had our first red flag alert in April this year, earliest that I can ever remember us getting a red flag alert. And so preparing for future wildfires is an important part of the process that we have at the county, an important function that we undertake through our emergency services department. And so they've been doing a series of presentations. They actually have, I think there's 5 different modules that they do, including financial and business preparedness, animal preparedness, what to do with your pets and livestock, property protection, emergency notifications, and then sheltering activities for the American Red Cross and medically fragile persons. Actually, there's 6 because they're actually doing another one now called air quality considerations. And these particular sessions have been offered, they've been offered live and in person, but the important thing about, for our purposes, is they've been recorded. We have either video recordings and or slides, the presentation slides, which are available on our website again. And you can go to emergency service and go to wildfire readiness presentation schedule to see both a schedule of when these activities were offered, but an opportunity to view them at your own, on your own schedule. So I'd like to really encourage folks to take advantage of that and get prepared for the next wildfire season, which is coming up. So that's what I would like to present today from my report, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Jacobson and Director Kenyon, and they can talk about other activities.
Well, you just about covered it, Wayne. I don't have a whole lot to add other than that we did receive the contract from the state for about $700,000 for extension of our mental health services and core team, as well as septic and water for homeowners. So I believe that contract was returned. And now we're waiting for the actual money to come. So we'll be having internal conversations here over the next week or two on how to actually stand up the water and sewer program. The mental health program is already stood up, and this is just an extension, but trying to get that program stood up so it's easy for survivors to access, as well as working with the LTRG and other groups to kind of help get the word out. And then hopefully there'll be some additional funding sources coming in from the state. to keep those programs going. We have a number of asks totaling about 25-ish million dollars, both at the state and federal level. So there's a number of things that we're waiting on the legislature to pass right now, but the session does end at the end of the month. So one way or another, we will know if we receive additional monies for those things, as well as some other asks that we had for roads and some other things. So here pretty soon we could have some more exciting news in terms of funding to help get survivors rebuilt.
That's wonderful. Roy Kenyon, Public Works Director, what do you have for us?
Good afternoon, Roy Kenyon, Public Works Director for Lincoln County. Actually, I don't have a lot to add on to what Katie was talking about. For me, I'm kind of in the holding pattern right now to see what kind of funding comes in. We're hoping to get enough that we can do some significant work on the roads that were impacted in the fire area, but that's still an unknown. It's looking promising, but it's too early to guarantee anything. So we're holding there. As far as ROEs, the rights of entry, I don't actually have anything new to update there. I know that Paul Seitz, the solid waste manager, was going to do one last attempt to secure some more ROEs. So he was going to be reaching out now, basically this week and in the future here real close to try to get the last remaining ones on board. But I don't have any news on that front right now. So yeah, like I said, we're just kind of waiting to see what hand we're dealt, and then we're going to go from there. So that's my report.
Thank you, Roy. Commissioner Jacobson, any questions for Roy?
No questions. Thanks.
Okay, well, thanks for everybody involved with this update. And now we go to commissioner reports. Commissioner Jacobson, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have two things I wanted to bring up. One is it looks like I think last week, I'm making myself a note so I remember all the things I want to talk about, excuse me. It looks like last week, I think the city council for Waldport met and passed some kind of firework ordinance for inside the city of Waldport. And I've received several emails, I'm sure you have as well, Commissioner Hall, asking Lincoln County commissioners to extend that into the unincorporated parts of the county. There's also some confusion that we can do that for the entire county, which we can't. It does have to go jurisdiction by jurisdiction. I guess I'd like to kind of dive into this maybe next week and have Sheriff Landers. My understanding is we do actually have a firework ordinance. It's not that we don't have rules about that existing. I know that Assistant County Counsel Jerry Urbich had looked into this for me several weeks ago when the city of Waldport said they were proposing it. So I'm hoping maybe next week on the agenda we can bring Sheriff Landers in as well as Assistant Counsel Urbich, who had kind of looked into this previously, and also try to understand what the city of Waldport actually did, what we currently have on the books, and where those differences are at. And enforcement is my big thing here is, how is the city plan on enforcing that? So that's one thing. And the second thing is there has been some, I think I've brought this up previously, but there is some movement to relook at some regional water plans beyond things that cities might be doing. There is kind of a group of people, myself being one, trying to go back and look at previous work done for Rocky Creek. I was not involved when Rocky Creek was looked at many years ago, but there was a lot of work and investments done looking at that project. And as we look to the future with climate change and some other things happening, I think it's worth a look to try to go back and see what parts of those plans may still be relevant. Geology doesn't change a lot in 20 years, technology may, but geology doesn't. So trying to just kind of circle the wagons a bit and find some support to try to dig up a lot of those old plans. And when I say dig up, I mean literally a lot of those are not digital, but in boxes and things like that. And see, you know, if we can find some funding from somewhere to kind of see what of those things is still relevant and start planting the seeds for a conversation on regional water, you know, beyond cities for the future. So that's all I have.
Well, those sound like two very significant items. I certainly support requesting Sheriff Landers to join us next week to discuss the fireworks situation. And I guess my main question, very similar to what you've raised, you know, A, do we have the tools already to deal with illegal fireworks and use of them in places that are not appropriate? And B, you know, if we did decide that something further was justified and necessary, what is the capacity of the sheriff's office to enforce that? So we'll look for that item next week. And I don't have anything under reports, so we'll move to public comment. And Christy, if you could bring up the public comment now, please, and just run through very quickly. We continue to receive a lot of input, and most, but not all of it, is related to the topic of short-term rentals. And if we can just scroll through the names, or are these all the ones we received this week? These would be, you know, we update this weekly, so the items you are seeing represent the 7-day period. We accept input until 1 p.m. on the Monday afternoon of the day of the meeting, and all of those are aggregated into this file for the public and commissioners. And so I think that's about all we have to say about that. So given that we do not have an executive session, I will note that next Monday morning at 9, we will have our virtual office staff meeting for the Board of Commissioners. At 11 a.m., we have a virtual executive session scheduled. And then at 3 p.m. Monday, our next public meeting of the Board of Commissioners, also virtual. If there's nothing else for the good of the order, I will declare that we are adjourned, and thank you all.
This conference is no longer being recorded.